Hi, my name's Richard Tierney, and the title of this is 8 Ways to Muck Up Your Event. It started off as 8 Ways to Ruin Your Event, then it went to something a little bit ruder, and then we came back to that. And I wanted to start by telling a story. And it's when I was a little boy, my father was driving me through Gloucestershire near Stroud, and we saw a signpost that said Paradise here. I don't know if any of you know it. It's, and my dad said, oh, we can't miss the chance to go to Paradise. So we turned up the road, and it was a cold winter's night. No clouds in the sky, you could see the stars, it was very cold. And there'd been a fresh fall of snow that day. And we finished up on the top of this hill, which was like a smooth curve in all directions. And there was, well, I was only a kid, but the snow came, when I put my foot in the snow, it came right up to my knees. And so I started, like kids do, I started making snowballs and throwing them around. And I started rolling them down the hill. And I don't know what was to do with this. It was a very magical night. It was a bit like being in Narnia or something. And I discovered that as you rolled the snowballs, if you rolled them like a bowling ball, then what you got was a kind of disc as the thing built up as it rolled down the hill, which is about this wide, the width of a snowball, and it could get up to about 2.5 feet wide. On the other hand, if you bowled it but like a cricket ball, twisting it as you did it, what you got was a great big snowball, this big. And when I was preparing this talk, I remembered that event, and I thought producing events is a bit like this, that it's how you start out that makes all the difference to how your event turns out. And indeed, the longer after it's left your hand, the more difficult it is to move it around or to get it to hit a specific place. So I wanted to just kind of hold that thought in your mind, and I'll tell you why on earth I should be talking to you about this topic. I spent an awful lot of my life working for various production agencies in London around the sort of 80s and 90s. And I've recently set up a creative consultancy, which is called Creative Talks, which helps people find more creative ways of producing events. And but I didn't just go straight from one to the other. First I went and studied at the London Business School, their very good creative business course. And then I did a study of companies outside the events industry that I thought were creative or innovative in some way, and that's some of them. And then I tried to map that back onto how we run events. And the other interesting thing that happened to me was I read a book. I read this book, a book allegedly written by Bill Gates. And it wasn't a very good book, actually, but it contained two very interesting things for me. One was he talked about the business model of McDonald's. McDonald's is a place where children go to buy hamburgers and they get a free toy. And Bill Gates said, what would it be if it was the other way around? If you went to buy a toy and you got a free hamburger? And he said that actually the business wouldn't change very much. It would still be the same business. And it would still have all the same operating parameters. It would just be a different way of monetizing it at the end. And he said something else that, well, I'm sure he said lots of things in the book, but the other thing that really resonated with me was he said, despite all the technology we have, despite all the internet access and the fast communications and mobile phones and all that stuff, he said most businesses are run exactly the same way now as they were 100 years ago. So instead of a typing pool, we have word processors. Instead of accounts clerks, we have Excel spreadsheets. But the business is essentially run the same way. And I realized that the events business is really run very similar way to the way it was a long time ago. And one of the ways I cut my teeth was as a production manager on big conventions for IBM, which happened a lot in the 80s and early 90s. And at one of those, we had some footage of an IBM conference from, I think it was the 1930s or something. It was quite comical, but essentially the event was exactly the same. Lots of superficial things had changed, but the event was the same. And so I realized that if I take this knowledge that I gained about running businesses and apply it back to mucking up your business, there seem to be 8 kind of critical things to me, 8 areas that you need to look at to ensure that you're not just doing the same thing you did before, and to ensure that you're delivering stuff that really delivers value to you, to your audience. And I'm going to trot through the 8, and I'll focus on a couple of them to elaborate on. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all 8 in huge detail. You'll be relieved to hear. And there was a common theme to these 8 things, and maybe we should have a little relaxing exercise to get you all in the room here. Can I ask you to all take a deep breath in, hold it for 2, and then let it out. So you go, breathe in, hold it, and out you go. Now I want you to do the same thing again, but this time I want you to make a noise. So just go ah as you let the breath out. Okay. So everybody take a breath in, hold it for 2, and very good. Okay. Don't you feel lovely and warm and relaxed now? So I'll tell you what the common theme is, but I need you to do that a 3rd time for me. And this time, when you make a noise as it comes out, I want you to make it like you've just seen a puppy dog or a small child or something very incredibly cute. Okay. So ready? Deep breath in, hold it for 2, and it's all about love. And we'll come on in a little while to talk about the kind of personalities of people in the events business, but most of them do it for the relationships they have, for the people they meet. People in the events business are very people.